Matthew Berman just launched the Loop library, a curated list of agent loops you can use right now. But if you've been hearing about loops, maybe it has gone a bit over your head as it has mine. This tweet from 2 weeks ago from Peter Steinberger, the creator of OpenClaw, said, "Here's your monthly reminder that you shouldn't be prompting coding agent anymore. You should be designing loops that prompt your agents." But I was still going like, what do you mean? Loops? I've heard of goals and loops and schedules and automations, but to me, I haven't been able to get to the point of loops being at the level of these people, including the creator.
I don't prompt Claude anymore. I have loops that are running. They're the ones that are prompting Claude and kind of figuring out what to do. My job is to write loops.
So I feel a little bit left behind. Like there's an inner circle of people that know how to run loops, and the people that do the exact same as you and me, where we basically prompt it and then we check the result and then we prompt it again and then we check the result and back and forth, back and forth. That should now completely, what they're saying, be automated by AI. That's why we're checking out the Loop library today. But there's a big misconception that you might have that an automation is the exact same as a loop. So before we begin, there's a very clear distinction between an automation and what is a loop. An automation runs step by step to reach an end destination. A loop, the key differentiator and the only thing really is that by the end of a process, it has a judge, a checklist, a set of criteria, an eval, some measurable or undeterministic results as well that can be interpreted by AI, and then it goes back again and it keeps going and checking, and that's the main difference, that it checks and checks and checks until something is correct. So your new job is to write these loops and checklists. That's the new hard part. So now that you have an AI college degree worth of knowledge on this, let's get into the prompts and think about it from the framework of how can you take inspiration from these loops. Starting with loop number 1, the doc sweep. A reusable AI coding agent workflow for comparing documentation with the current codebase, fixing drift, and opening a reviewable pull request. And as you can see, the end state is that documentation matches the current implementation, finish with a reviewable pull request. So this is for people that want to keep their documentation up to date. Loop number 2, the architecture satisfaction loop. A bounded refactoring workflow that live tests the system, runs an independent review, commits checkpoints, and records progress. The verify and stop for this is the architecture is satisfactory and checks pass, live tests, auto review, and commit each significant step. So this is for developers that want to clean up their code, which if you're using Claude Code or AI, it's heavily recommended. Loop number 3, the sub 50 millisecond page load loop. A performance optimization workflow for coding agents that uses one repeatable benchmarks and stops only when a target page meets the threshold. The verify and stop is every page loads in under 50 milliseconds. Use the same benchmark and confirm there are no regressions. So this is a simple one. Page load speed. If you haven't tried this, it's insane. Loop number 4, the production error sweep. A scheduled production log workflow that traces actionable errors to root causes, verifies fixes, opens a pull request, and stops cleanly when no action is needed. The verify and stop here is actionable production errors are fixed and verified. Finish with a pull request or stop when no actionable errors are present. So this is for developers who want fewer production fires. So you can turn real log errors into verified fixes automatically and skip the work when there's nothing to fix. Loop number 5, the 100% test coverage loop. A goal-based coding agent workflow that identifies uncovered behavior, adds meaningful tests, and stops when the full suite passes at 100% coverage. As you can see, the loop is very small, and the verify is that it passes 100% coverage. So this is for developers who want a real safety net so you can drive your code base to 100% test coverage with meaningful tests instead of chasing the number by hand. Loop number 6, the SEO GEO Visibility Loop, a repeatable search visibility workflow that fixes the highest impact crawl, indexation, page indent, citation, and answer readiness gaps first. So as you can see, this is visibility, and the verify stop is priority pages are indexable, answer ready, and technically sound. The repeatable crawl and query benchmark finds no remaining high impact gaps. So this is for founders and creators who want to show up in both Google and AI answers. So you just run this one repeatable loop that fixes your highest impact visibility gaps instead of guessing what to optimize next. Loop number 7, the logging coverage loop, a goal-based observability workflow that audits important paths, adds useful structured logs, and verifies success and failure events with tests. The verify stop is every important path emits useful tested logs. Representative success and failure tests prove coverage without exposing sensitive data. So this is for developers that don't want to debug blind, but make sure that every code path produces useful tested logs to make every event in the future easier. So that's all of this video. Thanks so much for watching. Just kidding, we got a lot more. Are you learning anything so far? If yes, click the subscribe button. And thanks to Matthew for putting this all together. Loop number 8, the nightly changelog loop, a scheduled coding agent workflow that reviews the previous day's changes and keeps user-facing release history complete and current. Again, a very short prompt where the verify stop is every user-relevant change from the previous day is accounted for. The changelog is updated and validated, or the no change result is recorded. This one seems like just a no-brainer. So this is for teams who hate wiring changelogs, so you can keep yours current with a nightly auto update of what users need to know. Loop number 9, the Quality StreakLoop, a realistic product testing workflow that turns every failure into documented regression coverage and restarts the success streak after each fix. The verify and stop here is the latest and realistic cases pass in a row. Every earlier failure is documented, fixed, and protected by regression and benchmark coverage. So this is for teams who need quality to actually hold. So you can turn every failure into permanent regression coverage and only ship after a real streak of passes. Loop number 10, the full product evaluation loop, a comprehensive product quality workflow that evaluates realistic scenarios across every major capability, fixes weak outcomes, and reruns them to the defined bar. The verify is that every one of the end scenarios meets the defined quality bar. The final evaluated run covers every major capability under the original conditions. So this is for teams who shipping a real product. So you can prove quality across every major capability at once instead of trusting a few hand-picked tests. And quick side note, this one is featured on his website, highly recommended by Matt. Loop number 11, the test suite speed loop, a performance workflow for reducing test runtime under repeatable conditions without weakening coverage, assertions, isolation, or behavior. The verify stop here is that the suite is faster with no coverage or behavior regression. Repeatable timing, the full passing suite, and the original coverage report prove the result. So this is for developers stuck waiting on slow tests, so you can cut suite runtimes without losing any coverage or changing behavior. Loop number 11, the repository cleanup loop, a repository hygiene workflow that audits branches, pull requests, commits, and work trees, recovers valuable changes, and removes proven stale state. The end state is valuable work is recovered, and remaining repository state is intentional. Branches, pull requests, commits, and work trees are current, owned, or safely removed with evidence. So this is for developers drowning in stale branches and work trees, so you can clean up the clutter without losing any valuable unmerged work. Loop number 13, the stale safe batch release loop. A release coordination workflow that executes stale or unfinished work, combines valid changes, and ships complete artifacts from the latest integrated main. The verify stop is only current. Complete changes ship in the combined release. The release revision is the latest integrated main that contains every selected change. So this is for you if you're shipping several changes at once, so you can batch only the complete current work into the release and keep stale or unfinished code out. Loop number 14, the production data cleanup loop. A production data quality workflow that removes disallowed records, improves classification logic, and verifies the remaining dataset against an explicit definition. The verify stop is every remaining record meets the allowed definition. Representative classification test and a post-cleanup audit prove the retained data is valid. So this is for you if you have messy production data, so you can purge records that don't meet your rules and fix the classifier that lets them in. Loop 15, the post-release baseline loop. A triggered release workflow that runs standard benchmarks against the completed release and records a reproducible baseline for future comparisons. As you can see, the short prompt says, after current release is finished, run the standard benchmarks and record the results as the new baseline. So the verify stop is that the new baseline belongs to the completed release. Loop number 16, the ticket to PR ready loop. A bounded engineering workflow that turns a ticket, failing behavior, or customer complaint into a proven root cause, minimal patch, and reviewer-ready handoff. We're now starting to see new contributions by the community, it seems like. And the verify stop here is that the failure is fixed, verified, and ready for review. The issue reproduces before the fix, no longer reproduces afterward, and relevant regression checks pass. So this is for developers handed a vague bug ticket, so you can turn it into a reproduced, root-caused, minimal fix that's ready for a review. Loop number 17, the customer AI deployment loop. A supervised delivery workflow that advances one customer priority into a validated, gradually released AI system with monitoring, approvals, and outcome evidence. The verify stop is one customer priority reaches a proven terminal state. The workflow reaches its agreed rollout stage, a production issue is fixed, or a blocker is escalated with an owner and next step. So this is for teams shipping AI into real customer workflows. So you can take one priority from idea to monitored production with approvals and ROI evidence at every stage. Loop number 18, the product update podcast loop. A scheduled editorial workflow that turns meaningful public product changes into a short, source-grounded podcast episode. The end state is that the episode accurately covers every meaningful public update. And you can see that it triggers each night. Finish with a review-ready 3 to 5 minute episode or a confirmed no episode result when nothing meaningful shipped. So this is for you if you ship often. So you can turn each day's meaningful product updates into a short, source-verified podcast episode users can actually follow. Loop number 19, the Codex Adversarial-Review Loop. A Claude and Codex workflow that opens a pull request, runs an independent Codex review, fixes blocking findings, and repeats. As you can see, the end state is the pull request reaches the configured review bar. Codex approves it or only explicitly accepted findings remain. Errors, stalls, and exhausted limits are reported as such. So this is for developers who want a second set of eyes on every change. So you can have Claude build while Codex adversarially reviews each round, until the PR truly passes. Loop number 20, the loop harness verification loop, a scheduled loop harness workflow that runs Claude in an isolated work tree and ships staged output only after a second Claude session verifies it. The verify stop is only independently verified outputs ship. A second agent pass releases the configured output. A failed verification preserves evidence and produces no external change. So this is for you if you're running agents unattended. So you can let scheduled repo work ship only after a second Claude session independently verifies it. Never one agent approving its own output. Loop number 21, the Boeing 747 benchmark. A vision benchmark in which the agent builds a Boeing 747 from a Three.js primitives, renders 9 repeatable angles, and fixes what each view reveals. So the end state here is the Boeing 747 meets the visual bar from all 9 angles. The same camera rig and rubric show every required view meeting the present threshold. Or the run reports stagnation, budget exhaustion, and remaining gaps. So this is for you if you're testing an agent's visual judgment. So you can have it build a 3D model and self-correct against 9 fixed angles instead of one flattering hero shot. Loop number 22, war loops. Frontend reconstruction. A war loops workflow that captures a real page, builds a static pencil mirror, and moving forge version, then repairs the weakest fidelity signals. The verify stop is the builds match the source across all 3 fidelity axes. Static appearance, experimental motion, and responsive reflow pass their gates, or the run reports stagnation or a blocked capture. So this is for you if you're trying to rebuild a real interface from a URL. So you can recreate its look, motion, and responsive behavior and fix only the parts that don't match the source. Loop number 23, the self-improving champion loop, a prompt optimization workflow that tests challengers on a working set, promotes only fresh holdout wins, and keep the current champions on uncertainty. The verify stop being the best holdout tested champion is returned. Every challenger is logged, and accepted changes beat the previous champion on untouched cases without weakening a must-pass check. So this is for you if you're tuning prompts or policies, so you can promote only the changes that beat your current best on fresh holdout cases instead of overfitting to the examples you edited against. Loop number 24, the devil's advocate loop, a critic and builder workflow that attacks a design, tracks every objection, and requires evidence before an objection can be closed. The verify stop is no high impact objection remains open. Every logged objection is verified as resolved or explicitly accepted with evidence, or the final report truthfully records a 2-round stalemate. So this is for you if you're about to commit to a big design decision. So you can have a critic attack it and force every serious objection to be resolved with evidence before you build. Loop number 25, the fresh clone loop, a disposable environment workflow that follows the README from scratch, fixes every hidden setup assumption, and restarts until onboarding works cleanly. The verify stop is a clean environment reaches the documented ready state using only the README. The final run uses only the onboarding guide and needs no unstated dependency, configuration, or manual repair. So this is for developers that want to prove onboarding actually works by rebuilding from a clean code until a first timer could follow it without help. Loop number 26, the Infinite Clickbait thumbnail loop, a thumbnail workflow that creates 10 concepts, score the top 3 against a relevant YouTube channel, and improves the winner without misleading viewers. The verify stop is when accurate thumbnail clears the fixed quality threshold, so the winner outscores the alternatives under the same conditions, remains legible at realistic sizes and represents the video accurately. So this is for YouTube creators who want thumbnails that actually get clicks, so you can generate, score, and refine 10 concepts down to the one winner that's legible and honest about the video. Loop number 27, the Autonomy-loop builder review loop. An Autonomy-loop workflow in which a builder and adversarial reviewer pass a Git baton between work trees and prove each new test can catch its fix. The verify stop is every accepted wave passes Autonomy-loop's proof and test gate. The new test fails with the change passes it. Every configured gate passes and protected production changes remain human gated. Loop number 28, the Codex completion contract loop, a goal planner Codex workflow that defines completion upfront, tracks proof for every requirement, and prevents partial Codex work from being reported as done. As you can see, every Codex goal requirement has current adequate proof. The final audit contains no weak, missing, or contradicted required item. Otherwise, the work remains open, blocked, or exhausted. Loop number 29, the Revolve versioned experiment loop. A Revolve workflow that improves prompts, code, and configurations through checkpointed experiments whose scores remained comparable across sessions. As you can see, the best Revolve checkpoints wins within one evaluation revision. The incumbent and candidates have comparable recorded runs. Accepted changes pass every guard, rollback is available, and live promotion has approval. So this is for teams running long-term optimization experiments, so you can improve a prompt or code path through checkpointed rounds whose score stay comparable and reversible across sessions. Loop number 30, the 5-minute repository maintainer loop, a 5-minute Codex workflow that triages repositories, directs outbounded maintenance to dedicated threads, and requires proof and permission before work lands. As you can see, the verify stop is every repository item reaches a proven handoff or terminal state. Authorized automations work lands with evidence. Other items are decision ready, blocked with one exact ask, or recorded as a clean no op. Once again from Peter Steinberger. So this is for you if you maintain several active repos, so you can have an agent triage and advance one bounded task per repo on a heartbeat, with proof and permission required before anything lands. Loop number 31, the recent feedback sweep, a project audit that turns recent user-reported problems into reusable failure patterns, fixes every confirmed match, and verifies a clean final sweep. The verify stop is the issue inventory is closed and a fresh pattern audit is clean. Every reported issue and newly found match has current proof of resolution. Blocked approval gate or budget exhausted items remain explicitly open. So this is for you if you're sitting on scattered bug reports. So you can turn recent complaints into reusable failure patterns and hunt down every sibling defect across the whole project. So not just the one that got reported. Loop number 32, the promise to proof loop, a product review that compares claims in marketing, documentation, demos, and AI answers with current evidence, then fixes or narrows unsupported promises. The verify stop is every high-risk customer promise is supported, narrowed, or waiting on an explicit decision. Each promise links to current evidence, and every high-risk mismatch is fixed, narrowed to what the product can prove, or clearly approval gated. So this is for teams whose marketing may have outrun the product. So you can check every customer-facing promise against real evidence and fix or narrow the ones your product can't actually back up. Loop number 33, the propagation compliance loop, a consistency check for values copied across a code project. Update every affected copy, find leftovers, and prove that only intentional old references remain. So the verify stop here is no unintended copy of old value remains. The final searches find only references that are intentionally historical or required for examples, migrations, or compatibility with a reason recorded for each one. So this is for you if you change a value and it lives in dozens of places. So you can update every copy and prove no stale version is left, except the ones that you meant to keep. Loop number 34, the Multi-LLM Convergence loop, alternates two AI systems from different providers to review a plan, document, or code change until both approve the exact same version. The verify stop is two different AI model families approve the exact same version. The final two clean reviews come from different model families with no edit between them. A pass limit, repeating disagreement, unavailable reviewer, or approval boundary is reported as a stall instead of consensus. So this is for you if you don't want one model grading its own homework. So you can have AI systems for two different providers review until both approve the exact same version. Loop number 35, the goal forge loop, a planning workflow that interviews the user, writes what should be built in spec.md, and writes how Codex should execute and verify it in goal.md. The verify stop is the planning files say what to build, how to judge it, and when to stop. Everyone done _when completion check names observable evidence. The quick and final checks can actually run. The environment is ready and unresolved decisions are clearly marked not ready. So this is for you if you want to go from vague idea to a long-running coding agent. So you can pin down the scope, completion checks, and safety boundaries up front instead of letting the agent guess what that means before you write the goal. Loop number 36, the UI UX score loop, a browser-based review that completes a real user task, scores each meaningful screen with the same checklist, improves weak spots, and retests the whole task. The verify stop being the complete user task scores better without making another important screen worse. The final dashboard shows the same entry point, fresh browser state, screen sizes, modes, scoring rubric, screenshots, score changes, and stop reason for every retained improvement. So this is for teams whose sign up or checkout flow feels off. So you can score every screen of a real user task against one rubric and fix the weakest spots without breaking the rest. Loop number 37, the code load trimmer loop, a web performance workflow that reduces the data downloaded before the first screen appears, while tests and screenshots protect behavior and appearance. The verify stop is the first screen downloads less data without a tested behavior or pixel changing. The same production-like measurements report fewer downloaded bytes. Existing tests pass. Every representative screenshot is pixel identical, and the uncertain dependency removal remains approval gated. So this is for you if your app feels heavy on first load. So you can trim down the bytes downloaded before the first screen appears, while tests and pixel identical screenshots guarantee nothing breaks. Loop number 38, the pixel safe CSS trim loop, a style sheet cleanup workflow that removes one piece of unused or redundant CSS at a time and keeps it removed only when every test screen looks identical. The verify stop is the delivered style sheet is smaller while every tested screen remains pixel identical. The same project checks and screenshots pass after each retained deletion. The build CSS file sent to users is smaller, and untested browsers, screens, or interactions remain explicit risks. So this is for developers that's sitting on bloated style sheets. So you can strip out unused CSS one rule at a time, while pixel identical screenshots prove every screen still look the same. Loop number 39 is the easy onboarding loop, a first-time user test that starts with no saved account or browser state, fixes one confirmed onboarding obstacle, and retries the entire experience. The verify stop is a first-time user can complete onboarding in one uninterpreted clean session. The full experience succeeds from the real starting point without the saved browser state, secret setup, guest routes, or manual repairs, and every real requirement remains intact. So this is for you if your onboarding makes sense only to people who already know it. So you can test it as a true first-time user from a clean session and fix what trips newcomers up until one pass succeeds. Loop number 40, the accessibility repair loop. An accessibility review that confirms barriers against an agreed standard, fixes the issue with the greatest user impact, and repeats the same checks. The end state being no confirmed accessibility barrier remains in the agreed pages, components, or user tasks. The same automated scans, available manual checks, affected user tasks, and regression tests pass after each refined fix without lowering the chosen accessibility standard. So this is for you if you need the product to work for everyone. So you can confirm real accessibility barriers against the standard like WCAG and fix the highest impact ones first instead of chasing an automated score. Loop number 41, the housekeeper loop. A conservative code project cleanup that proves one small opportunity is safe, makes the smallest useful change, and keeps it only after existing checks pass. The verify stop being no confirmed low-risk cleanup remains and existing behavior still passes. Every retained cleanup is supported by direct evidence, relevant builds and tests pass. The application still runs where applicable, unrelated work is untouched, and uncertain candidates are deferred rather than deleted. So this is for developers whose project has collected dead code and clutter. So you can clean up one proven safe item at a time while existing tests guarantee you never delete something that's actually in use. Loop number 42, the Axelrod Subagent Arena Loop. A controlled tournament where two reasoning AI agents repeatedly choose to cooperate or defect, then are compared with players that always make one choice. The verify being all 18 matches and 180 rounds can be reproduced from the recorded moves and fixed scoring rules. Each agent chooses before seeing the opponent's move. Every move is recorded before scoring. Totals reproduce from the full history. Invalid responses are logged, and any partial or invalid tournament remains explicitly incomplete. So this is for researchers curious about how AI agents behaved in repeated games. So you can run a controlled cooperate or defect tournament that reveals whether they retaliate, forgive, or exploit, with every move auditable. Loop number 43, the prepare a new project loop. A planning workflow that closes documentation gaps until requirements, technical design, acceptance criteria, and test strategy describe one buildable system. The verify stop is two independent reviewers derive substantially the same build from the project documents. Their descriptions agree on the components, data model, dependencies, and the definition of done. And every required artifact is specific, consistent, traceable, and testable. So this is for teams about to build from rough project docs. So you can close every gap and contradiction until two independent engineers would build the same system instead of three different ones. Loop number 44, the test stabilizer loop. A flaky test repair workflow that measures inconsistent results, fixes one root cause at a time, and stops after a defined streak of stable full suite runs. The verify stop being the full test suite passes for the required consecutive run streak. The repaired test passes repeatedly, and consecutive full suite runs are green under the recorded conditions, and no blind sleep or retry hides an unresolved cause. So this is for developers plagued by tests that pass one run and fail the next. So you can fix each flake at its real root cause instead of papering over it with sleeps and retries until the suite runs green every time. Loop number 45, the artifact to skill loop, a reusable workflow for turning one proven artifact into a transferable skill, playbook, or procedure and validating it on a second case. The end state being the extracted method succeeds on a fresh second case without the original artifact. An independent reviewer applies the reusable version under criteria defined before extraction, and the second result meets the source artifact's demonstrated quality bar, or the method is honestly marked provisional or not generalizable. So this is for people who keep redoing work they've already done once. So you can build an exact and repeatable method behind a proven artifact into a reusable skill and confirm it works on a fresh case. So those were all the current 45 loops on the loop library. I'm definitely taking some of these away, but more importantly, given me inspiration to make my own loops better. We're entering to a new era of prompting where it's more about loop engineering. And I'm all for it. But honestly, it still goes a little bit over my head. But that's why we keep learning. So drop your favorite loop prompt in the comments below. Check out our school community in the link in the description, where we just made a 7-day build and sell your first web app challenge with Claude Code. And I'll give away my loops once I got them nailed down, and maybe even submit them to the Forward Future website. Once again, thanks to Matt for bringing all these together. Subscribe to the channel, and if you didn't check out last video, it's on the screen right now. Tap it, and I'll see you tomorrow at lunch.